Hello everybody, and I think we are ready to go. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the International Orangutan Day 24-hour webinar. My name is Tony Gilding, and I'll be your host for the next 2 hours, and we hope that you have a good time. We also hope that you will go on to look at some of the other webinars that are happening around the world after this one. We'd like to start, if we can, by welcoming you all and thanking a few of our major supporters, and also all of those minor supporters, all of those people that are adopters, donators, people who've been to events, etc. It's only with your fantastic support that we can continue this, doing this. We've also got some pretty major supporters, people like King Living, the furniture suppliers, Lush Cosmetics, who have helped with the project in Indonesia, Nola Criddle, who's a sponsor and a donor from Western Australia, and recently we've had a really good association with Ethical Jobs, who are a recruitment agency for ethical jobs, and they've helped us with our fundraising program, which we did just before at the end of the financial year. So just a bit of a background, we're going to have some terrific guests today. We're going to have Jamartin, Dr. Jamartin, and Dr. Jamartin is the CEO of Borneo Orangutan Survival Australia, Borneo Orangutan Survival Global, based in Indonesia. Now, if you'd like to participate in this, the best way to do that is to put your questions in the Q&A section. You will also see Q&A down the bottom of your screen. I think it's on the bottom of your screen for most people, but it might be up the top of your screen for some iPad users or Android users. But we're very, very keen to have some feedback from you. And then if you put your Q&A there, and then if there is time for live questions, we will do what's called promoting you to a panelist, and then we can have a live chat with you. But mainly, if you just put the questions in the Q&A, type them in the Q&A, we will see all of those. The other thing which we are discovering and learning about Zoom and this platform is the closed captions. Now, closed captions are sort of like subtitles. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll probably see closed caption is available. And if you want to see what we're saying to you across the screen, maybe somebody can type something across there, and then if you go to closed caption and you turn your show subtitle, then as they're typing across the screen, you will see what they're typing. And that could be an explanation for something that's happening, and it could be a preview of what's coming up, or it just could be a website link, anything like that. So we've got quite a few of these little closed captions. So it's not necessarily for hearing disabilities. It's for everybody who wants to look at those. And then just underneath the hide or show subtitle, you'll find view full transcript. And that is where you can see all of the closed captions that we've had. So we're going to start soon with a video, but in the meantime, just a quick reminder of the program. As I said, we're having Dr. Jamartin from Indonesia. We are meeting with Lou Grossfeldt, who is an Australian who is very well known in the orangutan world and has some fantastic insights. We've got a very special guest, Vet Arga, who any of you who have been watching Orangutan Jungle School will know, and Arga is a bit of a celebrity on Stan, and he's a nice guy, and we're looking forward to having a chat with him. And then a very special guest later on in the program is Judith Curran. Judith is the founder and creator and producer and showrunner of Orangutan Jungle School. And so if you haven't seen your Orangutan Jungle School, we'll show you a couple of clips, but it's available on Stan, and she's been a great supporter of ours. So I think we're almost ready for the video. It's 5 minutes past 4, and I think if Audrey's okay with that, we have a team of technical experts, newly found technical experts, coming up straight after to behind the scenes, managing the chat, managing the Q&A, and managing the videos. And please excuse us if we don't get the technology 100% right. We've never done this before. And by the way, I don't think anybody in the world has ever tried to do a global webinar like this before, with so many complications in videos. But I'll hand it over to Audrey, and I'll hide my video, and she'll show you her magnificent video, which is just a little bit of an introduction about the Orangutan Foundation in Indonesia.
In the remote rainforests of Indonesia, deep within one of the world's last great havens of biodiversity, lives the orangutan. Orangutans are the largest tree-dwelling species on Earth and play a central role in the forest ecosystem. With 97% of the same DNA as humans, they are highly intelligent creatures who experience feelings similar to their human cousins. Humans who threaten their survival by clearing and burning their forest for timber, minerals, and vast monoculture crop plantations. Those that survive are hunted as plantation pests or captured for the illegal wildlife trade. Orangutans and all rainforest life now face extinction. Since 1991, Borneo Orangutan Survival, or BOS Foundation, has been helping the Indonesian government to protect orangutans and their habitat, rescuing them from areas of human-wildlife conflict and rehabilitating them, with the aim of one day returning them to the forest where they can live in safety and freedom. BOS Foundation works in Kalimantan, the Indonesian side of the island of Borneo, operating 2 centers for orangutan rehabilitation. The largest center is located at Nyaru Menteng in central Kalimantan. The other center is located at Samboja Lestari in East Kalimantan. Together, these centers care for almost 600 orphaned orangutans. Orangutans are commonly rescued from deforested areas, mining sites, plantations, and villages. Those who are old enough to survive on their own can sometimes be relocated to safe areas of forest. But many young, orphaned orangutans end up in the illegal pet trade and are often kept in terrible conditions. Together with local government, a rescue team sets out to confiscate a baby whose mother was killed and bring it back to the center. This baby may suffer from trauma and poor health, requiring medical attention. A thorough evaluation determines if the newcomer has any contagious diseases that may infect other orangutans at the center. After 3 months in quarantine, the young orphan finally joins the others in the rehabilitation program. Orangutan mothers raise their offspring for 8 years, teaching them the skills they need for a life in the forest. Without this vital bond, the babies are unable to survive on their own in the wild. At BOS Foundation, human surrogate mothers take on this role, preparing the orphans for a life beyond the rehabilitation center. The under 2s start in the nursery, where they learn to climb, make friends, and explore, rarely straying too far from their babysitters. Then, in forest school, the orphans improve at foraging for food and making nests, learning directly from their caregivers. Just like children, they need help, and just like children, they won't go far without a regular meal. Orangutans who complete forest school graduate to pre-release islands, where they spend up to 2 years putting their skills to the test under the watchful eyes of the technicians. Detailed behavioral data is collected to determine when an orangutan is truly ready to go it alone. Release candidates are then taken to a quarantine facility to undergo a final health examination and have radio tracking devices implanted. Once the orangutans are given the green light, a release location and date are confirmed, and the team mobilizes. A long and arduous journey then begins. The release destinations are remote and difficult to access, pushing the team to the limit. The orangutans spend many hours in transit cages, unaware of how their lives are about to change. This is the culmination of years of hard work, but all hardship is forgotten when the orphans are finally let go back into the forest where they belong. Finding forests that can support new orangutan populations is challenging. Most forests have been destroyed or claimed for other uses. Fortunately, BOS Foundation has secured the rights to release orangutans in 3 suitable habitats. Here, the rehabilitated orangutans can be monitored and behavioral data can be collected to see how they're adapting to their new surroundings. Local people are employed for their unique skills and knowledge of the area. And local communities surrounding the forest are informed about their new neighbors and how they can help protect them. BOS Foundation's monitoring data allows the team to assess the strengths and weaknesses of the reintroduction program, always looking for ways to improve. At the heart of the orangutan's plight, the destruction of its habitat. And as more and more babies arrive at the center, pressure on the facilities mounts. Many orangutans sit in cages waiting their turn to be free. Others, too old or unfit for the wild, desperately require alternatives to the cages they occupy. New pre-release islands are sorely needed, as well as new protected areas and release locations. In 2009, BOS Foundation established ROY, or PT Restorasi Habitat Orangutan, and paid the Indonesian government $1.4 million to protect the forest at Keje Sewin in East Kalimantan. More than 86,000 hectares of pristine orangutan habitat, an area larger than Singapore, safe for the next 60 years and beyond. BOS Foundation also manages 309,000 hectares of peat swamp forest, an area twice the size of London, home to one of the largest remaining populations of wild orangutans on Earth. The BOS Conservation Forest is a critical carbon reservoir that must remain intact. Failure to do so will not only impact the orangutan, but also the entire planet by contributing to climate change. Together with local communities, BOS Foundation is helping reforest degraded lands and re-wet degraded peatlands through blocking drainage canals, reducing the risk of habitat loss in the future. The BOS Conservation Forest demonstrates what can be achieved when everyone works together. The people at BOS Foundation are dedicated to protecting the orangutan and their habitat. Never has orangutan conservation been more urgent and more globally relevant, as we come to understand that the survival of this precious species is interconnected with our own.
Mundur, Judith. kelas 3 sudah sampai di kelas mereka. Disinilah tempat mereka bersekolah. Dan sepertinya 8 orangutan sudah sampai di kelas mereka. Mbak Sri, untuk grup ini apakah semuanya sudah lengkap?
Masih ada 2 lagi yang belum itu, Raja sama Jos. Oleh Jos itu sama Raja masih harus dicek dulu sebelum berangkat ke Imam Medis.
Mbak Sri, ceritain apakah orangutannya udah lengkap? Terus juga apa sih tantangannya ketika mengantar orangutan ke sekolah hutan? Apakah mereka semuanya bisa lengkap seperti ini atau sepertinya biasa? Seperti apa Mbak Sri?
Untuk hari ini orangutan yang di hari ini di grup 45 ini masih kurang 2 orangutan lagi. Itu si Raja sama Jos. Mereka sebelum berangkat sekolah harus dicek dulu ke medis. Kemudian tantangannya kami untuk bawa orangutan ke sekolah hutan tiap hari itu berbeda-beda. Kadang seperti tadi otong mau ikut, kadang tidak mau, dia mau lebih suka ikut di kecil. Tapi kadang satu hari dia bisa ikut habis semua.
Biasanya ada orangutan yang nggak mau sekolah atau seperti apa Mbak Sri? Apakah ada orangutan yang kayak gitu?
Ada orangutannya yang tidak mau ikut sekolah di grupnya, tapi sekolah ikut di grup kecil. Ada.
Kabur dia?
Enggak, memang bertahan sendiri seperti kayak otong tadi, bertahan sampai grup kecil itu keluar.
Oh, dia tunggu ya?
Ya, dia tunggu. Ada kalau yang kabur dari grup sini ke grup kecil itu nanti dapat terakhir yang kabur dari grup sini.
Di grup ini ada orangutan yang paling nakal Mas?
Ada, Taimur, Lalani. Pulang aja tadi. Ayo Jas, sekolah kamu Jas. Mesti buat apa ibu? Bingung ini tua ini.
Sekarang Mbak Sri lagi ngapain Mbak Sri?
Ini lagi ngajarin orangutan dari raja tentang makan raya. Digigit,
Susah nggak ngajarin mereka Mbak Sri kalau untuk cari rayap?
Ada orangutan tertentu yang memang cepat. Kalau saat kita cari kayu dia akan ikut dan langsung gigit. Ada juga yang seperti ini cuman dicium, tidak dimakan, tidak digigit.
Tapi di kelas ini semuanya udah tahu ya terkait rayap Mbak Sri? Ya. Atau ada yang masih belum tahu rayap?
Infeksi alami sini aja paling yang cantik dek. Ini ada rayapnya dek. Nabri. Yuk, ayo, jangan dibuangin. Aduh, lalalala, kemana kamu? Ini nanti saya naik dia sampai ke dalam dah. Enak, bawaan. Banyak nih tuh. Malah dikucik loh binatangnya. Wah, aku ikut kenapa kayaknya? Udah. Apa sih? Jelapak. Pintar ini. Lain juga bakalan hitam-hitamnya. Sayang dia telah coba suka dengan rayap biasanya. Sini jeng. Jeng sini jeng. Sini. Rayap sini nak. Mana dia tadi? Sini jeng sini. Monte. Jeng sini. Monte. Mana? Aduh, lihat nak. Sini. Dia monte sini teteh. Monte biasanya monte. Teteh. Mau dibawa pergi, kembalikan tadi ke mana tadi. Nah, dimakan aja di sana sedikit. Nah, malikan. Jangan dulu. Lagi dia makan. Kenapa kita dua begini? Turun
saatnya feeding time.
Yang naik lah.
Dijelaskan nggak itu lagi ngapain? Itu apa aja yang dicampur di situ? Arolit ya. Jadi itu oralit yang dicampur dengan susu ya.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Thanks very much. Thanks to the crew at Borneo Orangutan Survival Indonesia who put all of that together in the last couple of weeks. So that's really, really nice to see some brand new footage. And thank you to everybody who's been sending in your questions. We are going to ask as many of those as we can to our guests. Quite an overwhelming number, but we will do our best. And Dr. Jamartin, who is the CEO of Borneo Fundraising, Borneo Survival Indonesia, is just joining our call, and hopefully we'll be turning his, there he is, he's just turned his microphone on, and hopefully we'll be seeing a bit of a video of Dr. Jamartin. Dr. Jamartin is, of course, the CEO of Borneo Orangutan Survival, which is the parent organisation for our Australian organisation, and excuse me for looking a little aside here. Dr. Jamartin has had a long and distinguished career in conservation, including many years in the island of Komodo for looking after Komodo dragons. He is a jungle warrior. I have been in the rainforest with Dr. Jamartin on a few occasions, and I got to tell you, he is the guy you want by your side. He is he's a strong, muscly sort of guy. He's fast, and he knows the jungle. He loves the jungle. He loves the rainforest. He loves orangutans, and he's been an inspirational leader of the organisation. And his achievements since he took over have been significant. So, welcome, Dr. Jamartin.
Thank you, Tony.
Very nice.
My voice you can hear, yeah.
Yes, Wes, we can hear your voice. That's fantastic. Thank you. Great. So, how many orangutans are you looking after in Indonesia at the moment, Dr. Jamartin?
Yeah, we taking care of orangutan in some places. BOS Foundation has 2 rehabilitation center and 3 release site and 1 white orangutan habitats. We protect orangutan habitats. Currently, we are taking care of 122 orangutan in Samboja Lestari in East Kalimantan and 308 in Jamartin Rehabilitation Center in Central Kalimantan. It means total number is 430 orangutan in our rehabilitation center. But we also protect a population of wild orangutan in 309,000 hectares of peat swamp forest. We call BOS Conservation Program. In this area, there are 2,550 white orangutan living there in Central Kalimantan.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for looking after all of those orangutans. That's such an important role you are doing. And you've been very successful. I think the most successful primate release program in history. And it all happened after you started, and it's been an amazing accomplishment. So how many orangutans have you released into the rainforest of Indonesia?
In the first decade, we started in 1991. In the first decade, we had released around 400. And since 2012, we have released 180 orangutan in Bukit Batika Protection Forest in Central Kalimantan and 167 in Bukit Baka, Bukit Raya National Park in Central Kalimantan too, with around 3 translocation. And in East Kalimantan, we released 118 orangutan in KJ7 forest. Means total numbers orangutan that we had released is out 468. But between 2012 and 2018, based on only known outcomes, our success rate, because we monitor the orangutan after we release, the success rate is around 74%. With around 26 unsuccessful, mean some orangutan confirm that, some orangutan receive medical intervention. It means people coming, our team coming to help them. And we need to acquire more forests as release site because we still have 300 to 350 more orangutan in our center that we can release. We need more forests.
And you have another difficulty, which is COVID-19. Tell us about the difficulty of COVID-19 in Indonesia at the moment.
Yeah, COVID-19 become a global pandemic. In Indonesia is currently in Southeast Asia country with the most COVID cases. We have COVID case around 100,000 cases throughout the country since March 2nd until now. The national recovery rate is 60%. Indonesia has declared lockdown, especially in some area. We have categorized areas based on identified number of cases into green, yellow, and red area. In the capital city of Jakarta, is the highest number now. Recovery rate is around 61%. Some offices in Jakarta have been open for a few weeks now, but it said that reports of new cases are coming in from the office workers after they open the office. Most schools are closed until the end of this year. Markets, some malls, restaurants are open, yet the gatherings are not as high as before.
And what about orangutans? Is it possible for orangutan to get COVID-19?
Yeah, based on DNA with 97% more similar with human, we afraid that orangutan could be infected by COVID-19. That's why, after the case of COVID coming to Indonesia, BOS Foundation decided to close the program and rehabilitation center from visitors, volunteers, and researchers. Before anybody thinking to close the open people to coming, BOS Foundation already decided that because till now we don't know how deadly the COVID-19 to the orangutan. It's better to protect them since the beginning. And then BOS Foundation apply stricter procedure for health condition to our field staff on daily basis and prepares an emergency scenario to anticipate the possibility of an orangutan being transmitted by COVID-19. We are lucky till now there's no orangutan infected. But there has been no cases of orangutan, yeah? But is important to prevent this from happening, since we do not possess any experience of handling this had it ever happened. Personal protection equipment are getting more difficult to find, with its price increased so badly. We had to allocate more to provide this for our staff. Because the personal protection equipment always been part of our daily standard procedure. Bigger allocation needed to provide sufficient amount of personal protection equipment. And our global partners organizations such as BOS Australia came from countries who are also dealing with this pandemic situation, which make us to carry out the fundraising activities immediately online. So far, we can still to buy orangutan feed from the local farmers as usual, but this not take away the worry that if the social restriction of quarantine are tightened, the farmers will find it increasingly difficult to produce. If this happens, the supply of feed for our orangutan in the relocation center will be disrupted. Yeah, this is not easy to handle, but so far with the help, with support from the partners, we still survive.
Right. And back to a more bigger picture, what are the biggest challenges in making sure that our grandchildren can see orangutans in the wild? What are the biggest challenges that you face as an organisation to preserve the orangutans for all of us?
Yeah, all of us have a dream. We can see our grandchild could see the orangutan, especially in the forest. But the biggest challenge is the fact that forest and land fires still occur almost every year in Indonesia, and that we still had to work hard to stop it. This creates a huge strain on the forest availability to function ecologically. Means we have to protect forests for orangutan.
Yeah. And in Australia, people say, what can we do to help? And we always ask them to adopt an orangutan. That's the program that's the one that we really like, because it means that they get a regular update on the orangutan. They engage with the orangutan. And we know from, I guess, from their experiences that it's actually quite hard for you to raise the money for the daily expenses, isn't it? You know, yeah. It's big projects. There are some organisations that can help with. But tell us about the struggle with just the daily expenses. It's not very glamorous, is it? So it's a bit hard. Is that how it works?
Yeah, daily basis to support orangutan is not easy to get. That's why we request people around the world, they could help us through adoption and donation program. You could visit our website and find available opportunity to support our work. In Australia, you could go to BOS Australia website to see how you from Australia could help us to support daily basis activity in our work to protect the orangutan. And in the other side, everybody in the world have a smartphone. I propose, I request to all of you, using your smartphone smarter than you ever did. You can also help spread the word of our effort by sharing our posts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You could put that at the same time in the Facebook or Instagram in BOS Australia. And then you can using our merchandise. You can order it from our website. You can go into BOS Australia website, and it will help our activity to protect the orangutan. And you can join to our volunteer program run by our official global partners. BOS Australia now running the volunteers program, but during the COVID, we had to stop it. But there are so many ways that you can come to help us.
Yeah, thank you. And tell us, we have a question from one of the viewers. How is the process of getting or finding more forest that can be secured for releases go? And maybe you can tell us just how complicated this is, because I was amazed how complicated it is to get the permit from the Indonesian government to do this. It's not easy. You can't just write a check and buy the land. It's not that simple.
Yeah. In Indonesia, there is a land use planning and land use planning. And in some area dedicated to be forest production. And to let you know, more than 70% orangutan living beyond the protection forest. Means they're living in the production forest, they're living in converted forest. It means forest could be converted to another purposes. And BOS Foundation try to buy the license of the production forest to use it as a release site. But the process is not easy. The pay the license not mean buy the forest and you own it, but pay the license to run the production forest to be the release site for the orangutan. You doing the assessment to choose the forest, and then you have to make environmental assessment, and after that going to the government, explain the business models that you can do it, and so on and so on. A lot of things that we have to do. But we, BOS Foundation, with support from so many friends, especially from Australia, we have one release site in East Kalimantan. We pay the license for restoration company, and then we release orangutan there.
Good. Okay. So we're going to show some release video now, but before we do, tell us about the experience of being at a release. Is that a very happy moment for you?
Release is for me is more looks like personal. Yeah, this is something like a father to look his daughter getting married. In some side, you are as a father. I'm a father. I put myself as a comparison to make you easy to look how our feeling when the release coming. When we put our daughter getting married, in some case we love it. We happy because our daughter get someone taking care of her. But in other side, we still worry. This guy could taking care of our daughter. The same with the orangutan. When you open the cage, you see the orangutan go. In some part, you are happy because they back to the forest, to their home. And in other side, because you taking care of them years and years, you still bittersweet, yeah, to look at it. Oh, they could survive, and then but you have to release them to let them free in their home.
Excellent. Yeah, it is a. I've been lucky enough to be on one, and it's an amazing experience, incredible experience. Do you have one of the questions that's just come in? Do you have any need for PPE, personal protection equipment? And is it possible to get it to you? I know there's difficulty in sending medical supplies into another country. Often it's quite complicated.
Yeah, we still need personal protection equipment and medical equipment, but it will be better we buy it in Indonesia, because if you send it from other country, we have to do custom, a lot of process administration to take it from the custom. But yeah, if you could help us to support us with that, it will be great, and it will help us a lot.
Okay, great. So we'll just make a note of that. If anybody has any donation today, we'll make sure to get it to Indonesia straight away so that they can buy some more PPE. That would be fantastic. Okay, so we've got a few more videos to show, and we're going to show a couple of release videos. We'll be showing the wild streaming, which is a brand new video that you made for us, and then we're going to talk to Lou, and then we're going to talk to one of your vets from the Jamartin Arga, yeah. And lastly, we're going to talk to Judith. So we've got a full program, and you've got a full program too. So after our interview, you're going to have some interesting activities as well. So people can join your webinar, the Indonesian webinar, until very late tonight, right? You have some DJs and a rock band and some other fun things, I understand. So thank you very much indeed for joining us, and we really appreciate your time, and we've all been very lucky that Dr. Jamartin has spared a bit of his time. He's a very busy man, but he's incredibly passionate about orangutans, and we're very lucky to have him looking after the organisation. So I'm sure everybody would be very pleased to say thank you very much indeed. And I know you've got some other webinars to join, including the ones in Europe and America, so you've got a long night ahead of you. So thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Jamartin. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, friends.
Okay, bye. So,
for these orangutans, everything is about to change. This is the largest great ape reintroduction project in the world. After BOS Foundation rehabilitates orangutans rescued from habitat loss, hunting, and the illegal wildlife trade, the team prepares the orangutans to be transported. So begins their incredible journey back to the wild. take an orangutan from the forest, it's almost impossible to put them back. BOS Foundation specializes in putting orangutans back in the forest, no matter how impossible it seems. Hundreds of orangutans have been given back their freedom, but hundreds more are still waiting for their chance.
After a long day in forest school, the students have come to the playground for a final session of play and learning before bed. And for a couple of snacks as well. It looks like one crafty student has found a prime spot to enjoy their pineapple in peace. Meanwhile, Nima has selected her favorite barrel for a picnic. Zari is not quite as sneaky as he thinks. You almost got it. Now that's stealth mode. Some boiled papaya leaf water each day helps keep the malaria away. And Bravis wants his share too. Everyone is getting some afternoon milk, except Alejandra, who is clearly upset with the situation. But don't worry, Alejandra, you will get your full share later from the veterinarians.
Yeah, Bob.
But apparently, later is not soon enough for this frustrated jungle school student. Here comes Alejandra's special medicated milk. But she sees straight through their ploy. This is going to be harder than we thought. Here comes attempt number 2. And she foils us again. It's back to the drawing board for the surrogate mothers. Calm down following the milk fiasco. But what is going on here? Not one, but 2 orangutans have gone undercover? Is that Sari we see hiding in the barrel? Certainly dedicated to his game of deception. Now it is time for everyone's favorite lesson. How to extract honey. Has quickly figured out that using a stick means more honey for her. Young Jackie, however, still has more to learn if she wants to get every last drop. But that's why she still has her surrogate mothers to teach her. Looks like she will need a few more lessons in honey extraction before she will be ready to graduate. But there's always tomorrow. Now it is time for the surrogate mothers to prep the sleeping enclosures for the forest school students. She is mimicking wild conditions, covering the nesting spots and vegetation cut fresh from the forest, and rice sacks, which serve as makeshift nests for the young orangutans. Looks cozy to me. Now the day is finally drawing to a close, and all the forest school students are led to bed. Best friends, Boomy and Bravis are the first to head in. Next, it is Jackie and Zari's turn. Mima follows soon after.
That's so cute, isn't it? You could watch that for hours and days and forever. It's a lovely new video just in from Indonesia, and we're very excited about that. And thanks to all of those people that produced that under difficult circumstances, because all of their facilities are in lockdown at the moment, and they're being very cautious about making sure that we keep all of our staff and all of the orangutans well. So we're going to be joined now by Lou Grossfeldt. Some of you know Lou, some of you won't. But Lou has been involved with BOS Australia. Here she is. Hi, Lou.
Tony, how you going? Can you hear me okay?
Good. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. So
Great.
we've Lou's been with BOS Australia since 2002. She has currently the primate curator at the new Sydney Zoo. And prior to that, she was many years at the primate unit at Sydney's Taronga Zoo, and specialising in the husbandry and management of primate species. But she's also had a very active involvement with Borneo orangutan survival. She's been up there more times than she can count. She's one of the enrichment advisors, and she's also works on the animal welfare committee, which means that she inspects the orangutan facilities and provides feedback, along with Fleur Butcher, who is from Melbourne Zoo. They go up and do that on a voluntary basis. So has a huge role in what they're doing, and has more recently been involved with developing our enrichment program, and especially takes a special interest in orangutans that are unreleasable. So we'll talk about that in a second. But firstly, thanks, Lou. Thanks for joining us. And
Tony, thank you.
What makes orangutan special?
Well, you know, I have to say, after looking at all those videos that I've just been watching for the last hour, already you've just made me feel homesick. It's such a privilege to work alongside, you know, not only incredible people, but to get so close to such a sentient being. And I think, you know, the eyes, I believe, are the gateway to the soul. And that's never true words spoken. Then when you're looking into the eyes of an orangutan, I think you see that incredible raw emotion. And I guess, you know, we think about ourselves as human beings, and, you know, as Dr. Jamartin said, we're looking at around 97% DNA. So there's just such you feel like there's an awareness, a self-awareness that you don't see, I think, in so many other species besides great apes, and in particular orangutans.
Right, good. So tell us about your, you know, trips to Borneo. Tell us about why you go and what do you do when you get there?
Wow. So always been very passionate about primate conservation, and particularly with working alongside such incredible and talented people. I feel very privileged in being able to have the opportunity to go to Indonesia, particularly with an organisation like BOS Australia and BOS Foundation. You know, as we know, they are the largest rescue and rehabilitation organisation in the world today for Borneo orangutan. And if you look at what Dr. Jamartin spoke about in terms of orangutan releases, then, you know, the work they're doing is incredible. So to be able to have the privilege to see that work on the ground and be a part, just a very small part of that whole process. So as you mentioned, Fleur and I get to go and work alongside these incredibly talented local people and support them in enrichment and welfare development. You know, being able then to actually share that with anybody that wants to join one of our BOS Australia enrichment programs. And obviously at the moment we can't do that with COVID, but that's also a very exciting part of the process, actually showcasing the work that not only BOS Australia but BOS Foundation do. So it's very late, and it certainly for me feels like a second home. So, and watching those videos again really gives me itchy feet. So thank you.
So COVID-19 is affecting everybody's life. Tell us how it's affecting your life.
Look, I think it's just an incredible journey and an unknown journey for all of us. You know, at first I think I was okay with you know, having some orangutan-like qualities. I was actually okay with some of the social isolation for a while, but, you know, not being able to see people that you used to see regularly or be able to go out and on a regular basis. And particularly in my role, being the primate curator, you know, we've had to make all the necessary adjustments here. And, you know, as Dr. Jamartin said, I don't think we know enough about this disease and the risk that it can have on our closest living relatives. So, you know, washing your hands, wearing a mask, maintaining social distancing, I think it's just become the new norm for all of us in both work and home life. And
orangutans do suffer from respiratory illness, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. There's not much that we don't share. You know, if you look at that genetic similarity, you know, common colds, flus, you know, a range of different illnesses, diseases, you know, things like tuberculosis, polio, all of those things. There's a platform for exchange, and we certainly do that very well with orangutans. So for many years, yeah, certainly they've been exposed to these human-based diseases. So with COVID, it's just unknown territory, not worth the risk.
So we don't know that orangutans can get COVID, but we do know that if there was a COVID outbreak in the rainforest, it would be almost impossible to control. Is that the problem?
I think so. I think that, you know, if you look at the videos that we just played, we can see those technicians wearing masks and face shields, and I think that's just such an incredibly important thing to do. And you know, we're talking about some of the most endangered animals in the world, and to be cautious and careful, I agree. It's a scary time for everyone. It's the right thing to do.
Right, good. So when things are back to our new normal, whatever that looks like,
yes.
Tell us about how to get to see an orangutan and how to, because I remember my first ever trip to see an orangutan, and I walked for about 3 hours in the jungle, and I eventually saw an orangutan's bum in a tree 50 feet above me, and he scampered
Yep.
off and then threw a couple of sticks at me, and that was my
And that was it.
5-second encounter. So how can
And you've
people
never
have a
looked back.
but how can people have a slightly more fulsome experience than that?
Great question, Tony. I think, you know, for me, I'm quite privileged that I get to be next to one every day. You know, in my job at Sydney Zoo, it's an incredible opportunity to be able to get so close and personal with orangutans. I guess, you know, going to your local zoos and seeing orangutans, you know, even there is, I think, a great opportunity to really showcase the species and just see how incredibly special they are. But the opportunity also, it's there to go to Borneo, to go to Sumatra, you know, travel to these countries, you know, participate in programs like the one we have here with BOS Australia. You know, our enrichment programs provide you with that opportunity to see orangutans through that, you know, I guess non-releasable position. So obviously animals that are not going to quite make it back to the wild for whatever reason, that you can actually participate in that enrichment and welfare program. So you get to see and make enrichment, you get to get up close and, you know, feed them. So I guess maybe taking on a little bit of a role of a zookeeper. So there are certainly opportunities, and we really hope the other side of COVID that we're able to provide that service to guests that want to join us on our amazing trips.
Right. So we have a question from one of our listeners, and I'll read it out to you. It says, does the way that young orangutans are brought up in such a social setting change the way they adapt to later life as compared to the normal, fairly solitary start to life with just the mother and the baby?
Great question. I think that, you know, Tony, the way you just described your interaction with, you know, the first time you ever saw an orangutan, you saw them from a distance and, you know, a stick dropped on your head. So they're quite an elusive species, but I don't think we should assume that they're necessarily solitary. And certainly I think, you know, the research that's been done both throughout Borneo and Sumatra now shows us that there are aspects of orangutan behaviour and age development that indicates that they are in fact probably more like a fission-fusion society, which is a term that we often describe or apply to animals like chimpanzees. And so there is part of that stage of life where, you know, probably between the ages of 8 to 15, where they encounter or form very loose relationships with other orangutans that are either, you know, slowly starting to form their own territory. So I think that social aspect you see in some human care situations will work okay for a period of time. And I think that's one of the key things we learn about managing animals like orangutans. So in summary, I don't believe that it will inhibit that rehab or rehabilitation process at all. And I think, as you know as well as I, that it's one section on a very long or a very broad spectrum. That process is extremely long.
That's right. And I was looking at some of the statistics the other day about survival rates of returned orangutans versus what their backgrounds were. There are so many variables.
Absolutely.
Each orangutan, how long they were kept in captivity, what sort of a life they had in captivity. Yeah. It's what their surrogate mother experience was like. It's how well they adapted. It's not.
It's an accumulation.
Yeah, and it's very complicated, and the data's still coming in, but we're learning from it all the time. So we're going to be joined by Arga in a minute. So if we could bring Arga in. Arga's Orangutan Jungle School vet in Jamartin, and I've never had the privilege of talking to Arga before, so I'm very much looking forward to meeting him. And but in the meantime, before Arga comes, or as Arga's joining us, tell us about a release, Lou. Tell us what's so special about a release.
Oh, I get shivers up my spine, Arga. As soon as I think about one and watching those videos again. Arga, how are you? It's so good to see you. I'm just talking about how exciting. I'm just talking, Arga, about how amazing it is to be part of an orangutan release. You know, just being a part of that whole incredible journey, you know, you think about where an orangutan naturally lives, you know, it's 30 hours into that raw rainforest. It's watching that animal exit from that small box and then climbing up that tree and looking around and realizing that that's all I can see now is the forest. And as you and I know, that being and having the privilege of being a part of that is something that I will never forget and will be an absolute significant part of my life story. And I just, yeah, it's an incredible experience. So to see them go home and to see them where they belong.
Wonderful. Well, Lou's going to stay on while we ask Arga some questions. Thank you, Arga, for joining us. And firstly, why don't you tell us where you are and what you do? What's your job?
Okay, thank you so much, Tony, for inviting me for this Zoom webinar. And hello, Louis. How are you doing? I hope you are doing well.
Thank you, Arga. You too.
My name is Arga, and actually, I'm officially staying. I'm officially work and stay in Nyaru Menteng. It's in the middle of central Borneo, and currently, I'm looking after for around 305 orangutans. But if I flashback, in total, maybe I've been like look after for more than 600 orangutan. Yeah, it's like 7 years ago. And now I'm still looking after for them. It's interesting.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Exciting.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. That's good. It's not bad. It's the audio is not bad. It's always difficult with Indonesia, especially in the regional areas. But
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No. It's fine. We can hear you.
Yeah.
We can hear you fine. So tell me, you're not supposed to have a favorite, but do you have a current favorite orangutan? Do you have one special orangutan that you love more than all the others?
That's really difficult. Yeah.
That's a tough question.
Oh my God, that's difficult. Yeah, really tough and difficult question, Tony, actually, because some people they have like a few choices of the name of orangutan. But for me, because I know like hundreds orangutan, so it's totally difficult for me because I know exactly like each one, they have like different character, different attitude. So it's difficult for me. But but actually I will say I like the magnificent alpha male orangutan. They are so beautiful. They are so big. But if I could say name, I will say Benny. Benny Kalan.
Really, Benny.
Yeah,
okay, Benny's very popular. And actually, we have a question about Benny from one of our readers. Actually, one of our donors said, "Can you please ask Arga how is Benny's weight doing? How is the diet going for Benny?"
Oh yeah, it's Benny now. He is doing fine actually, and to be honest, we don't put him on diet anymore because he is in the good shape now, and he is good with the food and good with the friend, and yeah, Benny just doing great. So like from the Orangutan Jungle School last season is like really big, but now it's Benny doing fine, and the heart condition is getting better and looks fine. And Benny now is waiting to go to island.
Okay, great.
Relief Island, I mean.
Oh, that's very exciting. Very exciting.
Lucky man.
Yeah, lucky man. Lucky boy.
So Lou, did you want to ask a question there?
Nothing yet for Arga, I guess. Okay. Well, actually, Arga, yeah, I'd like to know, how are you guys doing? You know, for Fleur and I, we absolutely love coming to visit in Nyaru Menteng. You guys are incredibly welcoming and supportive, and one thing I always feel when I visit Indonesia is that sense of friendship and relationship between the staff at Nirmantang. How has it been working, not being with everyone all the time? Like, do you miss each other?
Yeah, actually, because we work here in our center, like we work really close with each other. So yeah, to be honest, I miss them. Like, yeah, that's really,
it's tough.
It's like, yeah, it's hard to tell. Yeah, it's tough. If you know what I'm feeling like, yeah.
I do, because you guys are very close friends. Yes. Thank you, Arga.
Yeah. It's difficult to tell. I'm sorry.
I know. That's okay.
So another question from our viewers, people watching. What is what human diseases can an orangutan get?
Oh, actually, because the orangutan have almost like more than 90% same DNA with human, and they all also have similar receptor of the disease. So most of the disease from the human can transfer to orangutan. So in our center, because we have like, yeah, to be honest, we are like overpopulate with the orangutan, like so many orangutan in our center. So it's difficult to maintain. So usually they will get malaria, and then helminthiasis, like worm, and then also some of them get traumatic wound because it's too many to crowded, and they just bite it, not bite, it's like throw woods to each other. So yeah, and also traumatic wounds. We check with the huge amount of orangutan, like we play with the population. So we have to make sure that our orangutan, they don't get the tuberculosis from human. So we don't want our orangutan get tuberculosis, get hepatitis or herpes, or the worst like it's HIV, something like that. We don't want. But that's why every 1 or 2 years we always check regularly their health check. That's Tony.
Okay, and so here's another question about the mental health of the orangutan.
With human.
So on the mental health is obviously very important too, especially if they're going to be released to the wild. So one of the questions we have is, if you're a technician or a carer or a mother, how do you make a orangutan who has come in from being stressed? Maybe they were in a cage, they were stressed. How do you make them get back to normal again? What are some of the things that you can do to help a baby orangutan get back to being more outgoing and confident?
Oh, okay. Actually, for that roles, that's main roles of our babysitter is giving love to infant orangutan that they didn't get since they are baby, because unresponsible human took them from their real mother. So our babysitter give love. That's more important things. Give love, and then the babysitter also like teach them, like maintain, like protect them in the forest. So the baby and the infant, they can rise their confidence. That's the first time. But after they're growing older, that's why after they're growing older and growing bigger, so we have Luis and Fleur to help us with our enrichment, something like that. So sometimes because they're really active actually, and their brain is so complicated. They're like they are living creature. They cannot just stay stay alone and then in the exhibit or something like that. So we have to give enrichment to maintain their health, something like that.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. We're almost out of time, but we wanted to say thank you. Can you please pass on to your your friends and your colleagues there our support for what you're doing, and thank you very much for that. And one just private question, no one is listening. Do you like orangutan or human being better?
Orangutan.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to say orangutan better. Unfortunately, yeah, orangutan better.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're very honoured to have a film star like you. And thank you very much.
I have to get your autograph.
Yeah, we get your autograph.
I want your autograph.
Yeah. Thank you, Louise.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Okay, and we are just going to a OJS Season 1 trailer, and then we're going to be joined by Judith from Orangutan Jungle School. Thanks very much.
In the heart of Borneo is the most unique school on the planet. It all starts with the rescues. And then classes begin. There are falls and failures. Some lessons are scary, but friendship makes it better. And of course, there's bucket loads of comedy. There is love here. And heartbreak. There's drama and unexpected danger. Remarkable reunions. And the world's only albino orangutan. The future for these orphaned orangutans is a journey towards freedom. The stakes are high in the wildest series you'll ever see. Orangutan Jungle School.
Unmute myself. There we are. That's pretty cool, isn't it? What fantastic show they produced. And we really appreciate all of those people that have joined our webinar. 2 hours is a long time, but most of you have hung in there. And I just got a note to say that we've got Ruby, who's only 10 years old, who is watching us and loving it. So Ruby adopts Jalapat, and she's watching now, and I'm sure she'll be very keen also to hear from Judith, who I can see across the ditch there, has just joined us, and will be turning on her video and her microphone very soon. And then we can start chatting to Judith about Orangutan Jungle School. There we are, Judith. How are you?
I'm here. I'm
hey,
good.
Great to see
God.
you. Nice to see you. Look, you're surrounded by cute little orangutans too.
Yeah, I mean, I must say your background is very impressive. I kind of had to make mine up. So
yeah, no, you did very well. I had some helpers, and I've even got a sun bear in there as well in the background. So I did have some very expert help from the Borneo Orangutan survival team. But anyway, look, welcome, and we're really delighted to have you with us. And it's such an amazing thing that you started. So tell us how it all started.
Well, it actually started in 2009 when I look, I mean, we had actually made another show about orangutans earlier than that for Animal Planet, and out of that I had sort of, I'd looked at what BOS was doing, And I had this wonderful idea about, you know, seeing what happens to the orangutans that graduate from jungle school and go to the islands. And so that particular first idea of mine, as you probably know, was called Orangutan Island, and it became, it was a 2-season series on Animal Planet and went for 26 episodes. And so that was when I first met everybody at BOS, and there were lots of people there then who are still there now. So you can imagine my relationship with those people has just been, you know, long, and it's become so precious to me. And so when I made that beautiful series, and it was a bit of a hit on Animal Planet, and you know, there's still fans all across the world for that particular show, but I never felt like I was finished. And I always planned to go back and tell the rest of the story, like the whole story, right from the beginning, when the babies come in. And so that's what I managed to do. Like, you know, the process of making a television show, of course, is interminable and difficult to get shows up, but I managed to do it because everybody loves orangutans, and you know, and here we are now.
Yeah. So you had 2 seasons with Stan here in Australia. Yep. We're very lucky to have had been able that all Australians can just take up a Stan subscription and watch it, as many of us have. So that's been absolutely delightful. So
is it still showing actually on Stan at the moment?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure it is. I haven't looked in the last few weeks, but
I'm pretty sure it will be.
It is. Yeah, it is. And so people can, just look at all of those. But tell us, it looks pretty comfortable there where you're sitting amongst your orangutans, but it's not quite so comfortable in the jungles of Borneo with leeches crawling up your leg. And tell us about how the challenges of filming in those situations.
You know, I mean, it's like, it's kind of crazy. Like when I first went to Borneo and, you know, spent my first few days in the jungle, it was like, you know, whoops, certain words I shouldn't say, but it is very, very challenging, you know, with the heat and the humidity. However, you know, you do become quite attuned to it very quickly. And, you know, and even, I mean, a Kiwi who actually lived in Australia for a long time, you know, I was used to humidity living in Sydney, but, you know, it is a difficult place. But the main issues we had actually were with the equipment, because, you know, like when as you know, you sweat all the time in the jungle. And, you know, the cameras that we use today that are so kind of, you know, they're very technologically, you know, important and everything, but and what we found was that the sweat was dripping down from the arms of the cameraman and actually going into some of the internals of the camera. And so we would have like, oh my God, what's happened to the camera? And we'd have to quickly get it back to our base and put it into a special room, you know, where, you know, it kind of got air conditioned. And so in the end, our cameras were so wrapped up with gaffer tape, which gaffer tape is a thing that camera crews use all the time, which is kind of cool. And you couldn't even tell it was a camera. They just looked like boxes of gaffer tape, but actually that worked in the end. And then I also insisted that my cameraman wore sweatbands on their wrists and on their, and you know, or arm socks, as we like to call them. And so that stopped the sweat going into the cameras.
Right.
So,
wow. Yeah. So in doing that, you obviously, you know, made some fantastic friends up there, and I've heard about all of that and all of the hard work and all of the stuff that you've done with them. But did you find was there an orangutan that you fell in love with?
Oh yes, like Arga said, you know, that's a very difficult question because there are many orangutans that you fall in love with along the way. And, you know, and I have some from my first experience as well that are still very precious in my heart. You know, on Orangutan Jungle School, you know, of course, Benny was one of our favorites. But I must say that there are 2 orangutans that I'm going to mention. And that one of them, of course, is Alba. I'm just doing a thing on my computer here. Alba, I'll never forget the first time I met Alba.
I was the albino, of course.
Yes, Alba is our beautiful albino female who is now thriving in the wild in extraordinary circumstances. But, you know, so Alba, we met her just after she arrived at BOS, and it was, you know, and I'll never forget the first time I met her, and she looked at me, and of course, you know, a lot of Indonesian people have dark hair and you know, dark eyes, and she sort of looked at me as if to go, oh, you look a little bit more familiar. And, you know, we had this moment, you know, where her beautiful blue eyes, cornflower blue eyes, who were so stunning, you know, stared into mine. And it was like, it was a very special moment, actually. And I mean, you know, I never had, you know, obviously we filmed her as much as we could, but we had to be very, very careful with everything that we did with her for many reasons. But, you know, I felt very close to her. But the other orangutan I want to mention was a little female who features in Orangutan Jungle School called Malika. And little Malika, she was a little girl who had been rescued by or found by a village family after terrible bushfires, the terrible Indonesian bushfires in, I think, 2014. I think, no, can't quite remember when. But so she was just a little pink baby when she was found with all her hair burnt off. And so she was looked after by a village woman for a long time. And so when she came into Niaro Menteng, she had been very habituated to humans, and it was a big challenge for all the BOS staff to try and get her to actually realize that she was an orangutan. And it took her quite a long time, and it's a beautiful story in our series to see that. But Malika, you know, and to see how confident she became was so special. But when we first met her, she always wanted to, you know, be close and hang out for reasons of how she had been, you know, spent the first year of her life. So I had some very special moments with her where, you know, it was, you know, she would look at your hand and see the lifelines on your hand and then look at her hand and point to them. And it was like she was going, oh, you're like me. You know, I mean, it was, you know, those sort of moments just make you realize, you know, what close cousins we are with these incredible apes.
Absolutely. And you must have seen some naughty behaviour. We've all seen the clips of caps being stolen and cameras being kissed and all of that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they can be quite mischievous, really, can't they? Is that true mischief? Are they doing it for their own entertainment?
Absolutely, no question about that. Like, one of the favourite games, of course, is to you know, we used to have this thing called Danger from Above, where, you know, you'd be filming in one of the jungle school classes and you'd be like, what, danger from above? And somebody, usually one of the males, I must say, would decide that they wanted to pee on, you know, it was like a special game as to how many members of the film crew you can get with the pee. So that was quite funny. And, you know, and to be honest, we always felt like, you know, whenever anybody did actually end up getting touched by the pee, it was like a sort of special gift from above. But, you know, yeah, I mean, Chinta, of course, from the series, she was like she was the leader of the pack when it came to the mischief. And, you know, trying to, you know, and a lot of, you know, we always needed to have at least 2 guards on all the filming equipment, because, you know, the word would go out and, you know, everybody was supposedly off doing their lessons, but you could tell that they were sort of plotting and planning, and someone would sort of circle back around the back to just, you know, to check out those wonderful backpacks and, you know, trying out those zips that, you know, they loved to, you know, so we always had to have either Technisi guys or one of our camera assistants there to sort of, you know, make sure that they didn't steal anything.
Somebody told me that one of the big differences between orangutans and chimpanzees is that chimpanzees look at an object and see it as a whole, whereas an orangutan sees it as an opportunity to pull it apart. The very funny story I heard was a lady who had her wallet and her passport and her entire bag stolen, and the orangutan just went up to the tree and over the next hour just took the passport, threw it down, page by page, opened up the camera that was in the base of film, took the film out, threw it down, and just went on and on and on and on until she just realised that travel insurance was her best friend and that she was going to have quite a story to tell the insurance company, but it was very legitimate.
Yeah, no, that is totally correct. I mean, that's a lovely story. I've never heard that about the difference between chimpanzees and orangutans, but that is exactly what they do. It's like you get something and then it's like, what can I do with it? And, you know, and Chinta particularly was a classic for this. And, you know, when, like, you know, there's a little snippet of a bit in one of the shows where she steals a hat. But what we didn't have time to show was, you know, like what she does with the hat is that she, you know, puts it on her head, of course, because she knows that's what you do. And then she kind of rips the bottom out of it. And then she, you know, puts it on like a pair of pants. And then she, you know, I mean, and wraps it around. I mean, you know, it's like they'll try every single thing they can do, you know, off one object, you know, and it's just, I mean, you know, it is so enchanting to watch because, you know, it's sort of like what you would expect any kid to do really with something that was unfamiliar to them.
Ah. So you're taking a break at the moment for COVID-19. We've been asked to ask, is there going to be a series 3 and any other little snippets or not too sure yet? It's all very uncertain up there at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is in Indonesia. I mean, in New Zealand, even though we've had a bit of a spike in the last, you know, of cases in the last week or so, you know, we've been, you know, lucky and on so many levels in terms of the way that we can operate the business and stuff. So that's been really good. You know, we are really very busy still pitching shows and everything. And look, all I can say is, yes, there will be more.
Okay.
And
that's
I can't go into too much more detail, but, and of course, and it's all about it. It's all a waiting game in terms of, you know, 2 things, you know, when Indonesia decides that it's safe for them to open the border, and also, of course, most importantly, you know, when BOS decides that it's okay for us to come back in and film. And, you know, we've been working on, we've got lots of protocols in place. And even, you know, when there's a vaccine and stuff like that, obviously everything's changed in our world, and we'll be, you know, having to work very differently, to be honest, in some ways with orangutans and the way that we film with them. But, you know, we can do that. Right,
great. Okay, well, look, I just wanted to say thank you very much, Judith, for your support of this. That you've shown to be a really genuine person in terms of not only wanting to make some great television, but also to help the orangutans. And you've been very cooperative in helping us with call to actions at the end of videos. And because at the end of the day, if we're not doing this for the orangutans, then we probably shouldn't be doing it. But I know that you are. I know that it's a heartfelt thing for you, and I know it's a heartfelt thing for your crew. And the exposure you've brought for the orangutans, the way that you show them in such a beautiful, respectful way, and the way that you've looked after them has been absolutely magnificent. We hope you continue to do that for us, and I hope to do that for you and do that for the orangutans. So thank you very much for that. And we're going to finish up with a few bits of a few videos from OJS, just to finish up our cast here, and then I'll come back at the end of that and talk to you. But for the meantime, thank you very much, Judith. It's been a great pleasure having you on.
Thank you, Tony. It's been lovely to meet you.
Yeah, terrific. Okay, and we'll no doubt see you again soon.
You will.
Thanks very much. So we'll go to those little clips, and then I'll be back at the end of that. Thanks a lot.
Hardest thing is they want to interact with us, and we really need to not interact with them. We need to avoid influencing their natural behaviour, and we need to avoid disrupting their education and learning. They're not meant to be habituated to people, they're meant to be wild, and we're here to do a job and we're trying to do our job. Occasionally they get curious and interested and come up and see what we're doing and try and work out what the hell this camera here is about. And they just want to come up and cuddle. And to go, no, I'm not cuddling you. That's pretty damn hard.
forest is a garden filled with thousands of fruit and vegetable species. Orangutans help this garden thrive by dispersing their seeds. Like a gardener, they know when fruits are ready to eat. And like a gardener, they spread seeds for future harvests. How do we know they are so good at dispersing seeds? We look at their feces. Orangutan poo can contain over 100 seeds. Some seeds will drop 75 meters away from the parent tree. Seeds that pass through the orangutan's digestive tract are more likely to germinate compared to seeds that are spat out. And by breaking branches to build their nests, sunlight reaches the forest floor, allowing it to regenerate. Orangutans are also believed to be the sole dispersers of certain fruits, making their gardening duty even more critical. As a keystone species, orangutans have an integral function in the ecosystem, regenerating forest from the bottom up. Keeping orangutans in the forest keeps the forest healthy and alive.
Wow, that was a treat, wasn't it? So many cute videos. Well, I think we got there. Fantastic. We had a few doubts about our technical preparedness, but thank you very much. We managed to get through all the videos and show everything, and we had sound, and even with the challenging internet in Indonesia. So thanks for sticking with us. We've got one little kiss for you coming from one of our orangutans. which I hope you'll stick around for. If you didn't get enough, then you can go to the Indonesian webinar, which starts immediately after this one's finished. We will put a link to that on our Facebook page. It'll also be on a screen that's coming up very shortly. They're going to do some more interviews, and they're also going to do an amazing thing. They're going to a live music and DJ concert later on in the evening, about 11 o'clock our time. So if you're feeling like a bit of boogieing Indonesian style with very loud dramatic music, then that could be your cup of tea. And of course, more orangutan videos. Also, if you get up early in the morning, you can join the European webinar, and that starts about early in the morning our time, and we'll still be going when you wake up, I would imagine. What you can do, you can always help us by adopting an orangutan. If you have one, then you can adopt another one, and or you can increase your adoption amount. Please tell your friends about this this webinar, and they can. The whole 2 hours, as I said, has just been recorded, so there'll be a link to that on our website. So we've just got one little a video left to go, so we'll let you have that, and then there'll be a final slide which shows all of the links, but they might be a little hard to caption. So thank you very much for all of the attendees. I can't believe that you all stuck around for the 2 hours. That was just great, and we're so pleased to have you. See you later.
Okay.